27th career victory in that historic 7th Canadian Grand Prix.
Michael and Rubens up close and personal. But nobody can lay a hand on the brilliant world champion as the Formula One Roadshow hits Indianapolis. It's half-time in the season. We're expecting a beautiful weekend for the United States Grand Prix. Hello there, welcome to Indy. All the teams have come straight here from that Canadian Grand Prix. It really is a hectic schedule for everyone concerned. BMW Williams arrive at the self-styled motor racing capital of the world after swallowing a really bitter pill. Both cars disqualified and 12 points deducted. Toyotas have suffered the same fate. Mark Blundell is with me. Hiya, Mark. And we will talk after Ted Kravitz explains why the Montreal podium was changed and how Jenson Button collected another trophy to add to his collection.
Here in Montreal, the brake ducts are the size of the Mersey Tunnel, the biggest certainly they've ever put on the car.
Well, not quite the size of the Mersey Tunnel. The front brake cooling ducts on the Williams and Toyotas were too big, in Williams' case by some margin. The rule states that the far edge of the duct must not stick out beyond 120 millimeters from the wheel rim. In Canada, the Williams duct itself was to size, but the placement was wrong. They mounted it 25 mil away from the rim, so it was illegal by that amount. Giving away 12 points was a massive own goal for Williams Grand Prix and an unwanted headache for Sam Michael in just his second race as technical director. The team have had a history of brake problems this season.
It was an embarrassing mistake. It was an error which started in the wind tunnel and then went through the design office and also through operations. So the advantage to us was zero. If anything, it was worse for us. The inlet area of the brake duct was the same. It was simply offset towards the centre line of the car by mistake. So it made it worse for aerodynamics and no different for brake cooling.
But the fact neither driver had overheating brakes suggests the team managed to avoid a problem ever arising and therefore did have an advantage at Montreal, the hardest track on brakes. For the error to fall through the net also points at a procedural deficiency at the Williams factory. For their part, the drivers were philosophical.
You have your best weekend for ages, you finish second, and the car's illegal. How do you deal with that?
Well, it was disappointing, but then, it was not done on purpose. We don't, in Williams, we wouldn't even touch grey zones. So, Frank is pretty strict about the way he leads the team, which is right anyway. And it was certainly a surprise and disappointed.
I couldn't believe it. It's the first time Ralf really beat me. First race he finished ahead of me, but I went up. It's the first time actually on the road he beats me this year, and we got disqualified. So I found that actually quite funny.
As for Toyota, they had a manufacturing error that pushed their duct past the 120 mil limit.
It was just a fraction over that, but only a small amount. It's a maximum width, and we were outside it.
So while the disqualifications may have been frustrating for the viewing public, they gifted Rubens Barrichello second place and Jenson Button his 6th podium position of the season. An expensive error by Williams and Toyota.
It's a massive own goal, a huge error by Williams. All those bright people at the factory. How does something like that happen, Mark?
It's very, very difficult to see how it did happen. I mean, there was another 700 people stuck back at the factory. Williams were out there at Montreal. They got disqualified for a 3 or 4 centimetre margin on a brake duct. It shouldn't happen at this level, but at the end of the day they were in trouble. They knew they were in trouble, and that design was put in the car. Must have gone through a lot of other people to make sure it got there, so somebody must have picked it up.
I tell you what I really hated about that weekend. Millions watching on television, 114,000 at the circuit. They go away thinking they've seen a race, pick up the paper next day, the result's been changed.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the only sports where you see that happen, Jim, and I think we do need to do something about that. It's not fair that you see the people on the podium, you expect that's the result, and it should be able to stick.
OK, Mark, a really costly error then by Williams. It pushes both drivers very much down the charts in the championship. 9 wins from the last 11 races for the champion-elect. By the way, keep an eye on that battle for second place. Button's 10 points behind Barrichello. Button's BAR quickest in the last practice session. Barrichello has been flying. Trulli 4th despite that rare blank in Canada. Very close between Alonso and Montoya. Ralf Schumacher, he goes back down to 12. Fisichella now has more than 100 career points after Sauber's best weekend of the season.
The double disqualifications in Montreal brought an unexpected windfall for the likes of Giancarlo Fisichella and the two McLaren drivers, who more than doubled their team's points haul in one fell swoop. Jordan also benefited from the revised order, with both their boys, including F1 debutant Timo Glock, moving up into the top 8.
It was a perfect result for me, and I think it was a lot of luck, but I think you have to be in the right moment, on the right place in Formula One, and I think that was the right moment in my career in Canada.
Glock became the first man since Mark Webber to score points on his Grand Prix debut, and in doing so could have influenced the Australian's career. The result leapfrogged Jordan to 7th in the Constructors' Championship, and significantly that dropped the Jaguar team down to 9th. It's now virtually impossible for them to meet the performance targets they have to attain to keep the in-demand Australian on their books for 2005. Glock returns to Friday testing duties this weekend because Giorgio Pantano is back behind the wheel of his Jordan, having resolved the management dispute which sidelined him in Montreal.
We didn't get on the car because there is some problem. I won't say no about the money, but there is something else between my family, I have to say, and my manager. We didn't find an agreement, and we decided to stop just to fix that problem.
Sauber's Felipe Massa is none the worse after his dramatic exit from the Canadian race. The Brazilian was airlifted to hospital for precautionary x-rays to his arm after a rear suspension failure put him into the tyre barriers at 60 miles an hour.
It was a huge accident, but I'm fine. So I just feel a little bit in the day after, like, you know, painful, especially in my back, in my neck, but I'm really fine.
Renault's unblemished reliability record took a bit of a bashing in Canada, where the team suffered its first technical knockouts of the year. Post-race inspections revealed that the suspension failure which sidelined Jarno Trulli on lap 1 was actually caused by a broken drive shaft. It was the same story for Fernando Alonso.
We've analysed the problem, we've got to the bottom of it, we've made new parts, and let's hope it doesn't happen again.
Former Ferrari and McLaren driver Stefan Johansson could be making a return to Formula One. The Swede has admitted he'd seriously consider setting up an F1 team if Max Mosley's proposals to open up the sport to newcomers go through.
Under the current format, it's almost impossible for a private team to enter, but you know, it is interesting for sure.
As we saw at the top of that piece, the weekend in Canada turned out very well for Eddie Jordan. Eddie, lucky break, but I guess you'll take those points any way you can get them.
Well, you know, we've been on the receiving end just as easy as on the benefit side, and, you know, those 3 points were very appreciated, and let's hope we can get some more here too.
How's it going for you here?
I think it's going better. We've been showing, you know, we started the year as, if you like, with a mission as a fight back, and we want to get back up to be, and it's now slowly, every race, there's definite signs of improvement, so hopefully, fingers crossed, this will be another step.
Looking quite tight at the top here, isn't it? Do you think we're going to see a close qualifying session?
Well, I think Indianapolis has always had that benefit because, A, it's very fast. People are going for the minimum amount of downforce they can get away with. With the new tyres, of course, they will have to change it for the race in many respects, so they'll have to take a view as to how they go and qualify. Yes, it is very tight, and that's what we really need to see, a very quick, fast, exciting race.
Hope it goes well for you.
Thank you.
Both Jordans out early in qualifying, Heidfeld third, Pantano fourth. Right, let's take a closer look at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the home of the Indy 500, the Brickyard 400, and this weekend the United States Grand Prix. Martin Brundle's enlisted a spot of local knowledge. He's linked up with a very impressive Formula One world champion for his track guide.
Our second North American race then within 7 days. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a very fast straight and a very tight midfield section. And what better way to look at this racetrack than with American legend Mario Andretti. Mario, welcome. When did you first come to this place to drive?
1965.
Incredible. And you won the Indy 500 in '69. So this must be bizarre for you because we go the wrong way around the racetrack coming down in towards turn 1.
Yeah, wrong way around, but once you're in sort of in the zone for the road course, you don't even think about that.
Absolutely.
I've had the opportunity to actually race here in a Porsche Cup car, and then it was quite interesting.
And what did you think of the racetrack then? So down here at turn 1 and 2, for example?
Well, This racetrack has the extremities, the slowest and the fastest. I think probably it's the highest terminal speed that the Formula One car will reach is right here. Because of that, a big compromise for the setup. And depending on how much speed you carry, here you're sacrificing corner 2, and you never really think you get it right.
Yeah. Now, in the good old days when you were driving in Formula 1, you were the world champion in 1978, just to remind the viewers, your car would have been handling so differently then, wouldn't it? Maybe on crossblade tyres, sliding around a lot more, fighting with the gearbox. Was it better then than now, do you think?
Well, but you know, Martin, it's still, you're looking for the same thing. You know, the modern racing car still only works when it has a balance. And we were looking for a balance then, you're looking for a balance now. You know, a racing driver has one feel, and it either feels right or it feels wrong. As much as things change, they remain the same. So just maybe go faster, but the feel has to be the same.
No rose-tinted glasses for you then, looking back at the good old days. Let's take a look around the rest of the track.
Sure.
So, Mario, these are the tight corners that the drivers bitch about. It's like racing a thoroughbred racehorse around your back garden. Were they always clumsy, Formula One cars, in these conditions?
Well, under these conditions, if you can see the tightness of that corner and then coming into this, perfect for go-karts, but in a Formula One car, the biggest thing that you will find here, you have a tendency to overdrive. And in turn, without, you know, using that patience, you're losing really more time because you could, you know, in a flat out corner, I mean, you're on full song, but here's when you really need to be clean. And you know, believe it or not, even though, as I say, it's Mickey Mouse, it's got some character to it.
And Mario, what about you? I still take pain when I'm not in a racing car, and I suspect you're even more so despite all the decades since you first started racing.
Yeah, I love my driving so much that I just can't really get it out of my system, at least on my mind. And but that's fine, you know. That's why I really don't enjoy being much of a spectator, if you will. But I always like to be close, however, because I like to stay informed. But again, I always have my spirit going along with somebody.
Thanks for your insight, Mario.
It's my pleasure.
What a great character. You're all the same, you drivers. Everything after driving is second best.
Oh, there's nothing to replace it. That's the problem. But that's a fantastic opportunity to see a legend there of motorsport, Mario Andretti.
And I know you've had a long chat with him, and we can see that on Speed Sunday this Sunday afternoon. Let's just turn the clock back to Friday. We don't often see accidents in Friday practice, but Sato and Massa obliged for us.
Well, I think it's a bit of a tough one, Ned. I put the blame clearly at Massa's door for this one. I think Sato's coming down the inside. Massa would have acknowledged that he was there, but clearly didn't give him any room. He only had to move over at least 12 to 18 inches on the race circuit, and this whole affair could have been avoided, Jim. You know, teams like BAR and Sauber did not need this kind of thing on a Friday. It's valuable track time lost for the two drivers. It's valuable data lost. It's going to hurt them as the weekend goes on.
I think the stewards ruled that as a racing incident. Jaguar, this is a massive market for them. They're saying that small mistakes have been blighting their season, and Mark Webber made another one this morning.
Well, yeah, he did make a small mistake, and Webber at this point in time doesn't need to make any mistakes. He's the hot topic down the pit lane. He looks like he's going to move to a different team for next season. But when you've got the car under you what's not quite working right, and you're trying to make up for those deficiencies, you push a little bit too hard. Here you see Mark just gets on it in the middle of the turn, breaks away from him, and he's about to hit the barrier. It's not a big hit, it's a soft hit, not much damage done, but he clearly doesn't want this at the early stages of the weekend.
The way Jenson Button has gone in pre-qualifying suggests that pole might not be out of the question for him.
I think it's quite possible. I think the Honda is very strong around here with the big long straight. The BAR chassis is working extremely well, and this is a circuit what suits Jenson's style. He's a smooth driver in the cockpit, very, very nice around the corners. He's just got no work rate whatsoever there. He's very smooth throughout the whole circuit itself, and I think he's got a lot of potential to put this thing on pole position.
And David Richards celebrating another good effort from Jenson Button. A massive Brazilian fans here hoping Rubens Barrichello puts his car on pole for the third year running, by the way, and Barrichello has gone very, very quickly in pre-qualifying.
Well, Rubens has been strong all weekend so far, and in fact he looks like he's got the upper hand over Michael Schumacher. Schumacher looks like he's struggling. Rubens again very confident at this moment in time. He's come off the back of a strong result on the previous Grand Prix, and again he suits this kind of circuit. He likes it, smooth, a lot of rhythm.
Just to pick up one thing, you say Michael Schumacher struggling. Whereabouts?
Well, he's struggling, it seems, in just those last couple of attempts against Rubens, but, you know, even struggling at that speed, I think there's a lot of guys who like to be there.
OK, thank you very much, Mark. Let's just check the running order for the upcoming qualifying session. Then the Minardis out first, as always. The Jordans follow them, as I told you. Then Klein in the Jaguar, followed by Webber. That's disappointing for them. Raikkonen and Massa. Coulthard will be 9th out. Fisichella goes 10th. Then Trulli, still not 100% by the way. Michael Schumacher 12th. He is followed by Jenson Button. De Matter in the Toyota. That particular car goes pretty well here. Ralf Schumacher 16th out. Then Sato. Panis, his 150th Grand Prix, going 18th for Toyota. Montoya, massive Colombian support here for him. And last out will be Rubens Barrichello. It's the Minardis who go first there. Let's join our commentators Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you, Jim. Hi, everybody. Zolk Baumgartner in the Minardi then going out on track. This is the halfway stage in the 2004 Formula One World Championship. And our penultimate chance to see single lap qualifying. France in a couple of weeks' time will be the last chance before the new format. The all for himself 2 times 25 minutes sessions come in at Silverstone. So enjoy it while you can. Michael Schumacher then, always been on pole position at this American Grand Prix track, but facing a very stiff challenge here this weekend from Rubens Barrichello, who's absolutely on fire here today. A 1:09.4 he set in the pre-qualifying session, which the fastest lap we've seen at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The Bridgestone tyre, which we've seen not too great really throughout this season on single lap qualifying, seems to be working well here though, Martin. It's giving the Ferraris good speed on a single lap, but I expect a challenge today from both the Williams drivers and the BARs as well.
Yes, I think they fancy their chances of a front row grid position, particularly BAR, although Rubens Barrichello rather shattered that in the first part of qualifying to organise the order in which they'll run now for this session, which decides the grid. But we know the Ferraris have been blistering their Bridgestone tyres, little pockets of heat on the surface of the tyre, and it bursts, erupts open, and the car slides around badly, and it can be dangerous. The tyre can delaminate, so Ferrari nursing some potential problems, but they have been super fast. But so BAR, and as you say, Williams too, McLaren and Renault a little bit off the pace, Jaguar really struggling, Minardi and Jordan pretty much the sort of speed we've been expecting from them as the season has unfolded. Good crowd here today, James. You'll occasionally see some empty looking grandstands. This place accommodates 400,000 people for the Indy 500, and I have to say, they said they may be a bit down this year, but there's a tremendous crowd out there for this qualifying session for the US Grand Prix.
Certainly are. You can see them all sitting in the grandstands there, straight ahead of this onboard camera shot. Zolk Baumgartner's car. They're all looking down on him, the Hungarian driver, soaring away at the steering wheel. You can see it's really a bit of a handful, this car, trying to carry a little bit too much speed there into turn 11, about 80 miles an hour that corner, up through 12, then 150 odd miles an hour, picking up speed all the time as he goes through turn 13 here, around about 190 miles an hour to come through and complete his only flying lap then in qualifying, a 1:14.8, and the lack of applause in the Minardi garage tells you that that's not what they had in mind at all.
Well, they did a 1:14.3 in the first session, presumably roughly the same fuel load, but a lot of errors, including this in turn 5, where he's already running wide through the entry. Later on in the lap, towards the final turn, he was also struggling in the wrong place on the racetrack, so pretty untidy, and that should put him plumb last of those that achieve a lap time today and do not have their engines changed, incurring the 10 position penalty. His teammate Bruni on track now, then he should be somewhere in the 113s if he gets his act together.
Huge stop here from over 200 miles an hour down to 50 miles an hour for turn 1. One of the biggest stops of the Formula One season. Must wrench your teeth out when you hit the brake there. This is the fiddly section then through 2, 3 and 4, averaging around about 80 miles an hour on the exit here. And already Bruni almost 0.3 of a second faster than teammate Baumgartner. I tell you what, Martin, obviously we get frustrated racing drivers after single lap qualifying every time, but we're going to have quite a few big names, I think, frustrated today, because judging by the first session, there were just 0.2 of a second separating second and ninth in that session. So it's absolutely critical you get the right amount of fuel in your car. If you put a little bit too much in there, you could go back 4 rows on the grid, and it's absolutely critical to get that right today.
It is indeed. They should be fueled up for about lap 20 of the 70-lap Grand Prix. We were just watching a shot of the suspension of the Minardi. I'll talk about that again if it comes up in front of us. But Bruni then heading for a time that should be in his target zone of 73-point-something seconds. Over the line he goes and fails just by a fraction, a merest fraction. Goes fastest at the moment of the two Minardis, but a 14.0. That's interesting, James, because I think the track was supremely fast for the first qualifying session, happening about 40 minutes ago. The track temperatures at the moment 47 degrees centigrade. They were well over 50 yesterday, so they're getting up there nicely.
Certainly are. Air temperature 24. Beautiful sunny day here in Indianapolis. We've had a lot of rain in the week leading up to this event. Huge thunderstorms on Saturday and Sunday. Over 9 inches of rain in the area, which is pretty much a record. 326 kilometers an hour then, the speed trap for Heidfeld. That's just a whisker over 200 miles an hour. Jordan struggling here this weekend, although we heard Eddie Jordan saying things are looking better and progressing. Both drivers complaining that this car is bucking around at the back. Very difficult to control the rear end of this car. But slowly but surely a few aerodynamic modifications coming onto it, and that points haul for Heidfeld and Timo Glock in Montreal coming at just the right time to push them comfortably ahead of Jaguar in the constructors' standings.
All the drivers tell me these groove tyres, the slicks with the 4 grooves in them, are so difficult to drive, and if they get a little bit out of shape, they always want to fly away from you, never come back to you and save you. And I think if you've not got a good downforce package or a good balance, as you can see them struggling with Jordan and Minardi, it seems as if they're almost undrivable with the instability. Heidfeld, though, looking pretty solid for the Jordan.
Certainly is. Always gone well here at Indianapolis as Nick Heidfeld. Good results, 4th place and 5th place for Sauber. And don't forget, Sauber led this Grand Prix last year with Heinz-Harald Frentzen at 1 point. Heidfeld also very, very strong that weekend. Heidfeld then goes quickest, 1:13.147, and Ted Kravitz is in the pits.
Yeah, down at Jordan. They still have that problem, the Jordans, after the first run, on the long runs with that rear instability. And to add to that, I'm afraid to say, Giorgio Pantano lost a load of time this morning with a hydraulic problem. So a very difficult time for this little Italian guy on his Grand Prix return.
I think he's got a good chance here, though, of out-qualifying his highly rated teammate, Nick Heidfeld, who's just put in a 13.1 for fastest time. That was 0.8 slower than he went in first qualifying. Presumably a game with a little bit more fuel on, but the penalty here is very low. It's a short circuit with a long straight. It's around 0.2 of a second for every 10 kilos of fuel that they put in. But that was horrendous understeer there through the apex of turn 5. And Pantano really struggling in the first part of this lap.
Well, I was standing down at this corner here he's about to go through now this morning, watching this car. It looks so unstable through there. Pantano seemed to be working the steering wheel. He seems to feel he needs to put a lot of energy into that steering wheel with his hands.
I think the other problem they'll be struggling with is clearly they're on similar, if not the same tyres as Ferrari. I bet the Ferrari's got 10-15% more downforce at least, and all the other electronic goodies that helps them with diffs and very clever systems that Jordan will not have full access to, and I think it's hurting them. They'll need a different construction and compound to make this car truly work, and that's why I think we're seeing such a lot of instability. He did not out-qualify his teammate.
Yeah, I was saying that the Bridgestone tyre is better over a single lap here. That's only really insofar as Ferrari are concerned. Jordan, Minardi and also Sauber have been struggling throughout this weekend to get good speed over one single lap. The tyre is tremendously consistent over the long runs in the Grand Prix, and that's terrific news in the race pace terms. But for the minor Bridgestone teams, a real nightmare to try and get some speed out of this tyre on a single lap. Here's Christian Klien then, dropped the ball very badly in the Grand Prix in Montreal, having qualified a career best 10th on the grid, 1 place ahead of Fisichella, who ended up with 5 points in Montreal. Klien ended up with nothing, involved in that first lap tangle with David Coulthard and his own teammate, and he's absolutely kicking himself about it because it really was a terrific opportunity, and he just had far too busy an afternoon of incidents. Mind you, fastest in the first sector so far.
He is indeed, and this is a corner where we've seen so many drivers take a trip across the grass and into the barrier, and turns 9 and 10, they're just 2 hairpins right on top of each other. Don't quite know why they were designed like that. Car just never gets up and running, so frustrating to drive through there. And now it frees up, give the car its head and just edge it up onto that famous Indianapolis banking. This is their turn 1 from the 500, driven the other way around, and then the very, very long pit straight start-finish line coming up, and a 12.1 for Klein, which again 4/10 slower than his quali 1 time, but not too shabby. Klein fastest then, Heidfeld second at the moment, Pantano in the second, Jordan third, Bruni and Baumgartner. That's the lot so far.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This next batch of 5 cars features Mark Webber, Kimi Raikkonen, Felipe Massa, David Coulthard and Giancarlo Fisichella. Mark Webber, the first one then out on track, second of the Jaguars we've seen today. Teammate Christian Klein currently fastest on a 1 minute 12.170. And Webber's had not a great build-up to this qualifying session. He had a spin this morning, took the front right corner off his Jaguar, so not quite as much running as he would have liked. Interestingly, Martin, we've got quite a strong headwind here today in Indianapolis. The flags are blowing strongly behind us. It's right into the drivers as they come down the straight. I'm told it's 5 meters per second, which is a very strong headwind. And one of the key things there for these guys is going to be getting the gearing right, isn't it? Thinking of, you're not allowed to change the gearbox ratios or anything like that after this session before tomorrow's race, and conditions could well change for tomorrow.
Yes, they have to build a margin in. The last thing they want to be doing is bouncing on the rev limiter during the Grand Prix, especially now when it's 1 engine for the entire weekend. The drivers do have an extra high rev button that they can use should they get in a big slipstream in the Grand Prix, keep it off the limiter. But if you use that too frequently, as you say, if you've just got the top gear ratio wrong, then you're going to damage the engine.
Well, you should see some interesting overtaking tomorrow, because I'm told by one of the engineers that they're expecting wins again tomorrow, and you get an extra 5% of top speed if you get a slipstream down the straight. So that says to me lots of overtaking in this Grand Prix tomorrow. Meanwhile, Webber 2/10 faster than Christian Klein. Not a bad first sector at all for Mark Webber. Qualified 14th through the last 2 Grand Prix. It's not been a particularly happy part of the season for him, the man who's made such an impression on the top team owners that they're fighting over him for next season. Williams still seeming to be the most likely destination for the Australian.
But I wonder if mentally he's already at Williams, James, because there is some frustration. He has dropped off the pace, he has started making mistakes, and you wonder if Mark's sort of already made that jump, although this is looking good lap, going to get him well into 111th. Front row of the grid's going to be 10s, we imagine.
There he goes then, 8/10 faster, 111.2. It's an interesting point you make there, Martin. Racing drivers as a breed, they do mentally check out of a situation if they know they're going on to something else. I remember Nigel Mansell when he was in America. He knew he was coming back to Formula One in 1994. Mentally, he completely checked out of Indy cars and checked back into Formula One. And it is something you guys do, isn't it? You just move on to the next thing immediately.
Yeah, it's a human reaction, I think, James, and that we're human beings. All racing drivers are no different. Just our job happens to be driving racing cars fast. I think Webber's time could well put him ahead of the McLarens. One on track now with Raikkonen. Ted has some news for us on that.
Yeah, I was asking Martin Whitmarsh, the MD at McLaren, why the cars were so slow in pre-qualifying, and he admitted, well, he said, we're running the heavy fuel. We're running the same fuel load in pre-qualifying that they're running now and for the race. The drivers preferred to get a feel for where the car was on race fuel than go light.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because the track, generally speaking, is getting faster, and certainly the 2 McLarens, also Michael Schumacher, Trulli and Button, were all perhaps a little bit too conservative in the first session, meaning that they're going out earlier than ideally they would like to. There surely must be an advantage, Martin, to the guys going at the end of the session.
2 advantages. The track gets better and better unless there is somebody blows up and drops a load of oil over it, or it starts to rain, of course, not expected this afternoon. But and also you know where you're at with the competition. You know how much of a risk you need to take. So it's better to go last and have that valuable piece of information. Raikkonen then, if he gets in the 10s, will be his best lap of the entire weekend. So whatever they were running in the first qualifying session, they are off the pace and just creeps in front of Mark Webber, and he'll be relieved about that. But they cannot wait until this coming week when they're testing their new MP4 19B car down in Spain, and they're using it at the next Grand Prix. They cannot wait to get rid of this car, as beautiful as it is.
Yeah, it's not fast, that's for sure. So looking for an improvement of at least half a second when they bring that revised McLaren out for the French Grand Prix. Interesting to hear what Ted was saying there. That's a different policy from McLaren from earlier on in the season. They did tend to run very light fuel in the first session to give themselves plenty of time to work on the car. So a change of McLaren policy in qualifying. On track then, Felipe Massa, his first ever visit here. He was racing in 2002 for Sauber, if you recall, but he was disqualified from this race for driving infringement at the previous Grand Prix. So Heinz-Harald Frentzen stood in for him, so he's never actually raced here before. Had a coming together with Takuma Sato yesterday in free practice, and really hasn't really hooked it up at all. And you just get the sense, Martin, that his teammate Fisichella now is stretching his legs over Massa, isn't he?
Yes, and I'm sure Massa's a little bit circumspect after that shunt he had just 6 days ago in Montreal, and cars had to be fixed. He had, as you say, tripped over Sato. Generally on his back foot a little bit is Felipe.
Coming out to the banking then, as the crowd's up on the left-hand side, you can see some are full, some of the grandstands, some are actually down at the final corner, the first corner rather, absolutely packed. They love to see their overtaking and their heavy braking down there. Massa coming through to record a 1:12.7. That's slower than both of the Jaguars, and the long faces, the long Swiss-German faces there in the garage say it all. Once again, Sauber failing to get the speed out of these Bridgestone tyres on a single lap.
Yes, but we're pretty sure, aren't we, that they tend to be the longest runners on Sunday afternoon. They stop almost always last of anybody, and they seem to put their ego in the box and just go long fuel, put up with a bad qualifying position, and then enjoy it as the race unfolds. Coulthard then did an 11 flat, an 11.0 in qualifying one. If he can match that now, he will go fastest and ahead of Webber and Raikkonen, and he will be very pleased about that, I would imagine. Can it be done?
Well, it'll be interesting. Just looking at the straight line speeds of Felipe Massa, though, Martin, he was very, very quick down the straight. So obviously they've trimmed the wing out on that car. Obviously exactly what you say. They've put fuel in the car, they're going to run long tomorrow, and they're clearly intending to overtake people as well, judging by their straight line speed. Here then is Coulthard into this very, very tricky turn 8. 75 miles an hour corner. A lot of people get it wrong there. No problems for Coulthard. Raikkonen's time on the right.
I think he would have felt he was a touch wide in 8. He just got some understeer on the apex and walked him out, and that is why he's so much slower. I think he lost a lot of time going into 8 there, and had to hesitate instead of sprinting from 8 to 9. Just had to basically get out of the throttle. Cost him dearly.
Maximum revs, maximum speed. Coming down across the line. Drops another gear, and he's 0.8 slower than teammate Raikkonen, and certainly a big chunk of that coming in the turn 8. Where else was he slow in comparison with his teammate?
That's why he just snatched the inside left front, and that brought the understeer on there for David Coulthard. And barely offline, but instead of being on the throttle pedal with that incredible power to weight ratio of a Formula One car, he was simply having to wait for it to stop sliding at the front end. That'll cost Coulthard dearly on the grid.
Here's Giancarlo Fisichella then. Did a tremendous job in Montreal from 11th on the grid. Running the two-stop strategy there, as I'm sure he'll be doing here again this afternoon. And I think the fact that there are some good drives available, particularly that Williams drive, the Plum drive really for next year, seems to have inspired Fisichella at the moment. Driving very, very well. Putting his teammate Massa in the shade. Can he overcome the problems that Sauber have been having over the single lap here this afternoon? Onto the back straight he goes then, building up to 180 miles an hour. Through the gears. This is that very, very tricky turn 8 again. Keeps it tight for 9. No real opportunity to put your foot on the gas. Finally it comes, picking up some speed. 80 miles an hour there through 11. And now flat to the floor. Up onto the banking, that Ferrari engine singing in the back of the Sauber. You can almost smell the finish line. picking up to around 200 miles an hour. And he goes 5th. Faster than teammate Massa by 0.3 of a second. So once again, putting the Brazilian in the shade. Well, Mark Webber, we've seen qualifying a creditable 2nd at the moment behind only the McLaren of Kimi Raikkonen. He's talking now with Louise Goodman.
Mark, you lost a bit of set-up time this morning. Have you managed to catch up?
Yeah, it's the first time you've got me in a good mood for a while. So, yeah, I was happy with that lap. It was really good. We had a problem this morning with the brake balance moving around a little bit, but I went in too hot as well into turn 6. So, yeah, I crashed the car this morning. Not heavily, but just enough to, like I said, lose our last long run. Happy with the balance on the long run, and we managed to do 2 good laps today. So that's the main thing. We're ready to go for tomorrow. Sitting there with Kimi and see what the rest of them do. But there's some different strategies. I think it'll be a good race.
Good recovery then from Webber after his accident this morning. He's 2nd at the moment. That is the top 8. Next car out in a moment, Jarno Trulli. Qualifying for the American Grand Prix in Indianapolis. We've got problems here. That looks like Jarno Trulli, who should be going out on track. The green light for him will be at 13:23.44. Well, we've gone through that, and Trulli finally gets going. Is he going to be able to get out on track? Well, he's driven out on track. I presume that's okay. There is Juan Montoya down in the BMW Williams area. I'm sure you'll hear a big cheer from the Colombian contingent here when he goes out on track a little bit later on.
There's clearly something that Trulli is not happy about. Has now decided to coast down into turn 1. Will he re-accelerate now on the exit of 2? Some kind of a gear selection problem, I would hazard a guess at, James, or clutch hydraulic problem. And Louise Goodman has found David Coulthard.
I have indeed. David, a bit of understeer, in turn 8. Seems to cost a gear.
Well, it wasn't just one corner. The car's unpredictable, so I was very surprised the balance relative to the first session. Just tried to replicate the lap and spend more time in the corner, just basically got a bit more out of shape, and you end up using more traction control, and it just soaks up the lap time here.
So is the car the same, or have you made any changes? Were you expecting it to be different, or?
I was expecting it to be a wee bit different because that's been the story of this car, but I left the car exactly the same. I was reasonably happy with the balance in the first run. Didn't have any bright ideas as to how to improve where we are, so decided to leave it. But maybe the tyres were a little bit different. That's the only thing that's been changed. So certainly a bit more, just generally sliding more and spending more time in the corner.
Thanks, David.
A very cheesed off David Coulthard. Ted Kravitz has news for us.
Yeah, down at Renault, appears to be some sort of gear selection problem for Jarno Trulli. He did make it out with about a second to spare before the pit lane light went red, but they're confident the car is okay for this run.
Okay, I think they possibly turn into red as soon as he's gone out, but certainly, as Ted said, it's very marginal. He then struggled, and now he's struggling again. Yeah. So he got it up and running, but a shift problem then. It's hydraulically operated from a micro switch on the back of the gearbox to the hydraulics, on the back of the steering wheel rather, to the hydraulics all the way back there, and quite clearly then gear selection problems for Trulli. He will start at or near the back.
Yeah, going to have to do some work on that car, I think. Given that he will start at the back of the grid, it may make some significant changes, may even move him into the spare car. Michael Schumacher is next out on track. Jenson Button, Cristiano de Mata and Fernando Alonso in this next batch. So everybody looking to see what Michael Schumacher will do. But poor old Jarno Trulli, it's been a terrific season for him so far in qualifying terms. He's been, last 3 Grand Prix, he's been pole, 3rd and 3rd. So that sequence very definitely broken here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, surprising, isn't it? Renault, along with Ferrari, who remain basically bulletproof. Renault had an incredible reliability record. He sort of took it for granted. Suddenly, they both pop a drive shaft in Montreal last weekend, and now Trulli unable to complete his hot lap. And the wheels falling off their reliability, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's very surprising. Here's Michael Schumacher building up for his qualifying lap. The crowd here certainly been getting behind him, except for the Colombians. They boo him like a pantomime crowd every time he comes through. He was slow here yesterday, put in the shade by teammate Barrichello, who was fastest in 4 of the 5 sessions we've had here so far this weekend at Indianapolis, including the pre-qualifying session. But Schumacher recovering a bit today. He's certainly on the pace, but he will face a very, very stiff battle from teammate Barrichello, who's not going out for another 8 cars, so another 15 or 20 minutes before Barrichello goes out. The track improving all the time. This then will need to be special from Michael Schumacher. It's already quick compared to Raikkonen, but so it should be.
So it's a 21.4 second first sector. That is good. That is very good. Not the fastest we've seen, but very close to it. So Michael Schumacher is up for it. Everybody else is pretending they're going to blow Ferrari away today, but Schumi has other ideas, it seems. He's already a long way around the lap. It's so short here, 2.6 miles, and a very long pit straight, as you know. And the shortest lap of the year, around 70 seconds, shortest by some margin. Look at this, it's a great one. It's well into the 10s, James.
It is well in the 10s. The middle sector's not been anything like as quick as we saw, though, in the first qualifying session, which is very interesting indeed. See what Barrichello can do. You can see the revs on the left there, 18.4, climbing up towards 19,000. He cuts the beam, 1 minute 10.4. That's gone down well in the Ferrari garage. Well, they know how much fuel's in that car. We don't. But they seem pretty happy, Martin.
Yeah, I think that's eminently beatable, though, by a number of cars. Both BAR Hondas should be able to beat that, and I think his teammate could well blow it away, actually. Ted.
Yeah, but I tell you what, down at BAR, Jenson Button was not so happy after his pre-qualifying lap. He broke a barge board on a curb that they've had to patch up, but more importantly, he's changed the front torsion bars between these 2 runs. Let's see what it does for him.
Yes, he was only 8th in the first session, so unsurprisingly he's wanted to change something. Torsion bars are a titanium bar that gets twisted. It's instead of a coiled spring, it's the suspension of the car, basically. So I don't know whether he would have softened it or stiffened it, but whatever it is, it still looks horrible.
Well, Jenson himself, a bit like a coiled spring at the moment. He is so full of intent, so full of purpose. He knows the first win can't be that far away, but, well, his problem has been qualifying of late, and it seems once again that he's not able to do it on the single lap.
Dismal first sector, 121.7, and we saw him. He appeared on our screens with virtually full opposite log. So let's hope it's settled down a bit in the middle part of the lap. We'll find out any time soon. He needs a 28 point something in the middle part, and he has done. Well, he's done a 29.2, but that's still quicker than anybody else. He is recovering it, but is it enough to beat Michael Schumacher and give him a chance of yet another front row position? Button then with nothing to do but plant the throttle against the firewall. Start finish line coming out, edge away from that wall to get away from the cushion, and he cannot beat Michael Schumacher by quite a margin. 4/10, and he's going to be well disappointed with that.
That's very interesting. BAR have always been strong all weekend in that middle sector, Martin. They've been the fastest men through there, but he obviously had problems in the first sector that lost him that initial 3/10, and although he got it back in the middle sector to within a 10th, final sector just could not match the Ferrari. The exit speed then from turn 11, clearly a problem. And there's Montoya shaking his head. He will go out next to last car. He's feeling pretty comfortable about things.
Yeah, a bit of overdriving, I think, from Jenson. He changed the car, tried to make it stick, probably asked a little too much of it early in the lap, and it cost him quite dearly. But, and there's a big gap between himself and Schumacher for plenty of others to drive into. The Toyota has been going well in all the practice sessions.
Certainly has. Well, they qualified 3rd on the grid here with Olivier Panis last year, but then they went and pitted on lap 6, which made the achievement of 3rd on the grid not look quite so impressive. D'Amata matching teammate Panis pretty much evenly, as he has really throughout the season. But first sector time isn't all that special, 1:22.2. That's 8/10 slower than Michael Schumacher. Well, if you believe the stories, Ralf Schumacher will be confirmed at Toyota in the next few weeks with Olivier Panis alongside him, and that means no seat for Cristiano D'Amata, who's saying he'd love to have the chance to drive a decent Formula 1 car. Doesn't feel he's really been able to prove himself so far. He has a few more opportunities to prove himself throughout this summer, though. He goes 5th. Schumacher fastest then, 1:10.4. As Martin was saying, though, 4/10 of a second the gap between him and Jenson Button, and we'd expect quite a few cars to drive themselves into that gap if it's anything like as close as it's been throughout the weekend so far at the front end. Raikkonen 3rd, Webber 4th, D'Amata 5th, Coulthard down in 6th. That could end up being something like 12th if he's not careful at the end of this qualifying session, with a lot of fast men still to go.
There's a half a chance that McLaren will struggle to be in the top 10 with either car. Raikkonen should just about make it. Alonso's teammate Trulli then not getting a run with gearbox problems. Alonso, all the cars, you'll find them just move away from the wall. You get a big pocket of air coming off a car, bursting through the air at over 200 miles an hour, and it can give you drag if you're too close to the wall, as the IndyCar boys know well. As ever, the Renault understeering, but it just seems to give them raw pace, and of course enables them to get on the throttle nice and early and have good traction. So it works for them, but it's a very unorthodox way of setting up a Formula One car.
6/10 down on Michael Schumacher in the first sector. This is not a terrifically strong track for the Renault team. It's a good opportunity for BAR, really, too. They're only 7 points behind them in second place in the Constructors' Championship, so BAR know it's an important weekend for them to get points, claw them back from the Renault team. And with Trulli hitting problems, likely to start from the back of the grid, it's very, very important for Alonso to get a good grid slot here and to have a strong Grand Prix tomorrow afternoon. 0.4 of a second behind Michael Schumacher. He's on target to be around and about where Jenson Button is. A high 1 minute 10 then on the cards for Alonso. Here he goes. Dips into the 11s at the end. Lost a little bit more time. And critically, that drops him behind Kimi Raikkonen. And I think Renault will be pretty dismayed about that, Martin.
I think they'll be, yeah, absolutely right. You've got Trulli without a time, and Alonso now with a bundle of understeer, and currently only 4th on the grid. Raikkonen will be mighty pleased with that. He remains at 3rd, and I think Webber, currently 5th, has also done a very good job, as he knew when he spoke to F1 ITV. And Louise is down there with Jarno Trulli.
Jarno, that problem quite clearly scuppered any chance you had of doing anything this afternoon.
Yeah, you're right. I've been so far this weekend has been really tough for me. Lots of problem, car setup, and then now also gearbox problem. Basically, they didn't shift up anymore.
Any indication before it happened?
No, just when I was leaving the garage, the gearbox didn't work.
Bad luck.
Well, the big question mark this season, Martin, has been why hasn't Fernando Alonso beaten Jarno Trulli? Because anybody last season would have thought going into this year that was pretty much a given. But Trulli has had at the upper hand of the team. Part of the reason for that is because he's toughened up his mental approach to the game. But problems here, you can see he's getting his chin down again, can't you? And that's the problem for Jarno. He does tend to get depressed, doesn't he, when things go wrong?
Yes, but he has raised his game. And as I've said on many occasions, you're either giving pressure or taking pressure in Formula One. And that first and foremost comes from or to your teammate. And Alonso has been on his back foot, put in some tremendous charges during the Grand Prix. Alonso has, coming back from problems, but clearly easily ahead of his teammate today then, because his teammate doesn't have a time. But paddock gossip, strong paddock rumour, is that Trulli has re-signed for Renault, and it will be announced at the French Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. So it looks like no changes then for their driver lineup in 2005.
Still waiting to hear who's going to be driving these cars next year. The Williams team have admitted this weekend they are looking for 2 drivers. It's the first time they've actually said that. Up until now they've just been looking to replace Juan Montoya, but they admitted this weekend. Frank Williams said on Thursday we're looking for drivers, plural. Ralf Schumacher on his way to Toyota in a deal estimated to be worth around $14 million a year, if you believe the paddock gossip. Astonishing amount of money. And poor old Ralph, pretty disappointed, Martin, after the Canadian Grand Prix. By far his strongest performance of the season so far. Pole position in qualifying. Terrific drive in the race. Did absolutely everything he could with his car. And then went and got himself disqualified.
Ted has some news about Williams down there.
Yeah, I think we're talking about the track coming to teams. I think it's really come to Williams. This morning, they were both in pretty bad shape. We've got to say, they were both making changes, endless changes to the front suspension. But now Montoya, after his pre-qualifying lap, came back and said, it's really good. We have a really good race car. And Ralph feels the same. Let's see what both of them can do.
Well, historically, these last few Grand Prix, they have suddenly produced it out of the hat, haven't they? Pulled the rabbit out of the hat. Not least, of course, Ralph on pole last weekend when Williams looked all at sea and suddenly produced some performance. They did that again late this morning in free practice. But are they going to beat a 1:10.4? A little bit bemused here, James. Pole position, if that is pole of Michael's, only just over a second faster than last year. Short track, law of diminishing returns, all of that. But I still thought that they would be quicker than they are. Many of the runners who've already been out there.
Well, they're obviously carrying a little bit more fuel here than perhaps they did last year. Certainly it's a short lap as well. That would factor into it. Williams going well, as you say, Martin, last few Grand Prix. Nothing particularly new on the car, no developments. The big development's going to come at the French Grand Prix, and the team are looking to play that down. They don't want to say too much about it, but the drivers, particularly this guy, Ralf Schumacher, saying, hey, listen, we've got some great things coming on this car, and we are going to be much, much stronger in the second half of this Formula One season. So we'll wait and see whether that is the case. A lot of aerodynamic changes coming on the car, mechanical ones too. They didn't make a big enough step forward over the winter 2003-2004 by their own admission, but I think they'll be a much stronger force in the final part of the season. Ralf Schumacher not looking likely to knock his brother off the top step, but can he drive himself into that gap between Michael Schumacher and Jenson Button? 0.4 of a second is the margin, and he's off target to do that. He could still pit Kimi Raikkonen for third here, though. Out onto the banking, BMW power plant, not the most powerful in Formula One anymore. That honour going to Honda, it's estimated, but still plenty of grunt from the BMW. Pushes the car across the line in a 1:11.1. He does indeed just nick it. Third place from Raikkonen.
Yes, and pretty crucial by 0.03 of a second. The track is changing, James. Could be the wind. It's picked up now to 5 meters per second. It was around 3.5, and it's turned a little too. It is absolutely on the nose. And the way this track is laid out, that means full headwind down a long pit straight, and then a tailwind through the Mickey Mouse infield section, which is the last thing you need. It reduces your downforce. It makes it more tricky under braking. The back end of the car is lighter, so it's a double negative, and I wonder if it's hurting some of these drivers. They're not delivering the pace we expected.
Well, look at that, 332 kilometres and down the main straight, the speed trap for the Honda, and that was around 340 this morning. So you're absolutely right, Martin. This wind right on the nose, and not an advantage then for the later runners. We were saying perhaps Michael Schumacher being too conservative with his first run, but lucky old Michael, the wind's got up, and all of these guys are going slower as a result. 0.3 of a second down then, Sato on Michael Schumacher in the first sector. Jenson Button did a 1:10.8. Can Sato out-qualify his teammate? It wasn't a spectacular first sector by Jenson Button, but his middle sector was really, really good. Fastest so far. No one has gone quicker than Jenson in the middle sector in qualifying here. Sato has it all to do. Look at this, he's up, 8/100ths up. Absolutely spellbinding middle sector, 2.5 tenths faster than Jenson Button for Takuma Sato. Really has nothing left to do now, just plant his foot on the throttle, hope the Honda horses can push him across the line. Faster than Michael Schumacher. Is this going to be pole for Takuma Sato? Will it take him fastest? No, it doesn't. He's dropped it in the final sector, just as Jenson Button did. The Ferrari very strong in the final sector. Good effort, though, from Sato. He does out-qualify Button, but it's not quite enough to get Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, it's interesting. He was 3/10 down on Michael in the final sector, which is all straight line stuff, and a lot of it into the headwind. And that I really began to, as you did, James, you sensed, hey, this is doable, because we all feel Michael's 70.4 seconds is beatable, and Sato looked like he got it together, but just failed. Out-qualified his teammate Jenson Button, second and third at the moment, but is the wily old fox in for his 61st pole position. Maybe the only man who can beat him now in reality is his teammate Barrichello, who surely's got a great chance, headwind or not, given the pace he's shown through free practice. Montoya exits the pits for his warm-up lap, but on track then, Panis for Toyota.
Yeah, qualified third last year on the grid here at Indianapolis, was third in pre-qualifying before this session, but unlikely to stay there for terribly long. His first sector is puts him on target to he's just behind Ralf Schumacher, who's currently fourth in terms of outright pace then at the moment, looking to try and insert himself somewhere around 6th or 7th, I would think, on the grid. Teammate DeMatter is 8th. He's within 4/10 on his middle sector. Not a bad middle sector at all, actually. Quicker than Ralf Schumacher managed. This could put him 4th or 5th, Martin, if he can keep it going in the final part of this lap.
Slow middle part, but you're right, he'll be in there with Raikkonen and Alonso. They're 5th, 6th at the moment. He goes 6th. He splits Raikkonen and Alonso, so solid effort then from Panis. Is he running super light as they did last year? But Where is he compared to D'Amata? He is some half-second faster than his teammate. So Panis then probably light, but definitely fast.
The wind has dropped down the straight to just 2.6 metres per second. That's good news for Juan Montoya, who's warming up at the moment. No one else has started on pole position apart from Kimi Raikkonen last year, other than Michael Schumacher around this racetrack. As Schumacher going to snatch it back again, hasn't been on pole since the Nürburgring a couple of Grand Prix ago. Juan Montoya and Rubens Barrichello standing between him then and pole number 6 this season.
Pretty monster speed at the end of the pit straight there, 340 kilometres per hour. That's something around 212 miles per hour. So Montoya with a good straight line speed, but a very ordinary first sector time.
Yeah, 21.8. That's slower than teammate Ralf Schumacher, who's currently in 4th place. Got it all to do then, Juan Montoya. Big crowd here right underneath us, the commentary box and the main grandstand. Pretty disappointed by what they're seeing out on the track. They've come here to salute Montoya, not to bury him. He's 4 tenths down now. Not a bad middle sector. Quicker than teammate Ralf Schumacher. This could put him between the BARs and his teammate. This could put him 4th if he's had a good final run out of the final corner. And he does indeed go 4th. Schumacher fastest then. Sato 2nd, Button 3rd, Montoya 4th, Ralf Schumacher 5th. And only Rubens Barrichello can separate Michael Schumacher now from pole position. Ted Kravitz has more news for us.
Yeah, but interestingly, Ferrari playing around with the front wings of both of these Ferraris this morning, and Rubens running a bit more front wing than Michael. It might hurt him on the straight, but I think it's going to help him on the infield. Looking good for pole? Maybe.
Yes, your front wing tends not to affect your straight line speed in the same way that your rear wing does. It's a curious thing to say, but it's true. And it does get the nose of the car in the corner if you add some. Very nice. As long as it doesn't make it too pointy, too tippy-toe. Barrichello then with a wing change, as Ted has spotted. And he'll be very disappointed if he doesn't beat Michael. He looks like he's had the legs on Michael Schumacher from the get-go Friday morning, as Mark Blundell said at the top of the programme. So Barrichello surely, but he's already 2 tenths down. What is going on out there?
Very strange, isn't it? The wind speed seems to have dropped down the straight, but Barrichello, first sector, 2 tenths down. One thing he does want to have control of tomorrow is the strategy. In Montreal, he was penalised by stopping earlier than Michael Schumacher, a lap earlier on the first stint and 3 laps earlier on the second stint. That really hurt his race effort. I'm sure Rubens would have wanted to carry a bit more fuel than Michael to avoid that happening again. He feels he has the legs of him. Look at this, though. He's turned it round. He's 2 tenths of a second faster is Rubens Barrichello, and only the easy bit to do now. Is this going to be pole position for Rubens Barrichello? Is he going to snatch it away from Michael Schumacher, the last man to go here this afternoon? Is he going to take pole position? Yes! Rock and roll! What a great lap from Rubens Barrichello. And as he promised throughout the weekend, he is faster than Michael Schumacher, and that's 1-0 Rubens this weekend. Fantastic effort.
Yeah, great lap. He was a bit tardy in the opening part, but he was a full 4 tenths quicker than Michael Schumacher through the technical aspects of this racetrack in the middle sector, and Matt Schumi in the final sector to almost to the thousandths of a second. It was good enough to stop Michael Schumacher getting his 61st pole, and Barrichello moves on, and that's his 10th pole position in Formula One, and well deserved.
And his first this season, critically. Michael Schumacher has certainly had the lion's share of the success, and he's loving it, isn't he? Milking the moment, it's called. And, well, how much he deserves it. Montreal gave us a pointer. We saw him having a half-hearted attempt to pass Michael Schumacher in the middle part of the Grand Prix, and you could sense that he was annoyed by what happened in Montreal. He just wasn't happy at all. He's come here to the US Grand Prix, where, let's not forget, Michael Schumacher handed victory to him back in 2002, slowing in the final corner to let him through. It's psychologically a massive blow struck by Rubens Barrichello, and let's hope those 2 guys are going to go racing tomorrow, because it should be pretty exciting.
Let's hope so, James. All red up front then. That is, in fact, Rubens Barrichello's first pole at Indianapolis. We'll be right back with Mark Blundell's views, and we'll hear from the drivers as well.
Rubens, a great lap. A fantastic crowd here too, a wonderful atmosphere.
It feels nice to be here. I think it's a wonderful time where, there's loads of Brazilians out there, and I had quite a positive run just going out, and it was nice. I could almost hear them shouting.
You were very quick this morning and quick yesterday, of course. How's the weekend progressed for you, and how do you feel about the race?
I think the car has been good all time. We made some progress since yesterday, but I think Michael has made more progress even so we were very close together this morning. And then just before pre-qualify we made a small change. The car became a bit better. And in qualify, I think it was difficult for everyone because the wind was picking up and it was quite difficult driving in the qualifying lap there. I didn't have much of a reference because as you go out last, you're just trying to do your best. But it was just an easy lap, trying to make a mistake on the limit, and finally my first pole of the season.
Congratulations. Michael, you spoke yesterday of having a reasonably difficult day, and of course you were not out when the track was quickest in qualifying. You must be very pleased to be P2.
In a way, yes. I'm pleased. I mean, we're both on the front row. Naturally, I would have preferred the other position, but Rubens did a better job, so that's where we are.
What were your thoughts as you were waiting for Rubens to go out? Did you think he had a realistic chance of beating you?
I did. He had, yeah, because I struggled in the mid-sector. I had to fight far too much oversteer in there, and I lost reasonable time. And there was obviously the doubt that I would keep that position. Actually, I was expecting to drop further back.
Takuma, your third top 3 qualifying position of the year, and here you are right next to the 2 Ferrari drivers at Indianapolis. Doesn't get better than that.
It's, I think, great result today for the teams as well. Considering about I lost yesterday the practice session and half. Really pleased myself to get back on the pace, and also the team done a fantastic job so far and put us for the second low, and that's a really good result.
Do you think you can take the race tomorrow to the Ferrari drivers?
I mean, they're always very strong in the race pace, but I think we improved for some consistency through the long run. So we pretty much hoping we can getting closer to the gap. That's we all have to do tomorrow afternoon.
Rubens, you pushed Michael very hard in the Canadian Grand Prix. We saw you racing closely there. Ferrari on record is saying they're looking forward to seeing you racing. What are your thoughts tomorrow about the fight with Michael?
Being in front, I hope he doesn't get as close as I got to him in Canada. But it's always a nice fight. As I said, I have no problems with Michael. I'm always proud to be racing against him. If I've done the pole today, I've done against the best. So I think it's just a positive side. I'm starting on a good place tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of people cheering up us here, especially the Brazilians. So just a good night's sleep, and off I go trying to win tomorrow.
He has been on the money throughout the weekend, and he is on pole for the 10th time in his career. Always tends to start on the first row here. First pole for Barrichello. Schumacher alongside him, all red. Then the BARs, then the Williams. Raikkonen in the McLaren making the top 10. Panis Grand Prix 150 for him, also in that top 10. And Mark Webber's Jaguar 10th behind Alonso. Coulthard will be unhappy at starting as low as 12th. Felipe Massa in the Sauber 15th. And Jarno Trulli right down there, down the back. That is his worst since Canada 1997. Mark, you said at the start you thought Michael Schumacher might be struggling a bit. I guess when we look at Schumacher, struggling equals second place.
Oh, struggling for Michael, yeah. A lot of people would like to be on par with that struggle. But, Michael Schumacher came out the box. He was very early in the qualifying session. Didn't have the best conditions to run. But he did a very nice, clean lap. Very precise on the race circuit. Typical Michael Schumacher fashion. Poised. But at the end of the day, I don't think he's still quite got the best out of his car and quite got the best out of the overall package. he will know that come the end of this lap.
It was the sort of Mickey Mouse mid-sector where he might just have lost a bit of time.
Yeah, the little infield sector there, and I think there's a compromise with the guys at the moment. Do they run less wing down the straights, compromise the mid-sector, or do they have the downforce on board?
We looked at the BARs, we looked at Button and Sato. They haven't got pole, but they're very, very handily placed indeed.
I think they're in very good situations on the grid. I think both those guys did an outstanding job. It's definitely been an improvement with the BAR chassis as it's been here at Indianapolis. Button's been driving very smoothly over the course of the weekend. Typical Jenson lap, no major problems. Puts his lap together nicely and very, very precise on the circuit. Hits every apex. Sato's a guy now who's coming on very strong. Every time he goes out and qualifying, we're very excited to see what he produces. And he produced a great lap here. Put him second at this point in time. Only a couple of tenths behind Michael Schumacher, and everybody was up in arms.
And good to see Jenson Button applauding that lap as well. No matter what he does, Takuma Sato, he gives you a bit of excitement, doesn't he?
He really does. And I mean, he's a guy that we're all looking forward to see if he can go that next step. I'd like to see the guy get somewhere in the race. It would really pump everything up.
Right, let's get Jenson Button's verdict on that lap. He's with Lou.
Jenson, that didn't seem to go to plan.
No, well, when Taku did his run, obviously he was running after me, and when the circuit was cleaner, and he was running with more wing than me, so they said to try it, and we did, and it's pretty awful actually. Loads of oversteer, just yeah, too much oversteers.
So with hindsight, wish you'd kept the car as it was?
Yeah, because I mean it's difficult to know when you're going out third to know what to do with the balance, but I would have thought we would have learnt from Taku's run, but obviously we didn't, and had a lot of oversteer in the car. It was struggling a lot.
It always is a balancing act, isn't it, when you tinker around with the car. Sometimes it comes off, and sometimes it's like Jenson and you really struggle.
It is. I mean, this is the compromise of this kind of circuit. And the guys are tinkering away all the time. They're trying to get that last little edge. But sometimes if you change things too late, you just can't quite get the best out of it. And I think that's clearly what happened with Jenson.
A word now with the BAR technical boss, with Jeff Willis.
Well, Jeff, Jenson made a couple of small changes to the car between the sessions. Was that what upset him?
No, I don't think so. If you look during the last 20 minutes, the wind's been quite gusty, and there's been a little bit of a lottery of who gets the gust and whether it helps them, and you can see that in the top speed. So I think, not to put any discredit to Takuma, but I think Jenson didn't quite get as good a condition as him, but I think we're pretty happy. Second row, both cars. That's a good place to start tomorrow's race.
It was a good lap by Taku, under a bit of pressure, has to carry the weight of the team.
Very much, and particularly he got the fastest middle sector. Yeah, very good lap for them, so I'm very pleased to have both of them up side by side.
Thanks, Jeff.
They're happy they're both in with a great chance of a podium. I remember here last year, Juan Pablo Montoya left this circuit very, very unhappy because this was where his chance of the World Drivers' Championship really disappeared. How do you feel he's going to feel about his qualifying lap?
Well, I think he'd be happy with it. Obviously, I think things have changed somewhat since last year, but, you know, Juan Pablo Montoya has been looking for a result all year long. I think this place in particular is going to give him the potential to get the race result, which is strong, because the BMW is very good round here. They've got a lot of top-line speed. Montoya was doing about 208 miles an hour on this straight, which is phenomenal. And I think, you know, he put a clear lap together. He's confident, he knows what he's got to do ability-wise, and you know what's underneath him with the Williams, and they need to make a reprieve of last week's result.
He doesn't go to many places where he sees those Colombian flags in such numbers, does he, Juan Pablo? And he sometimes gets a bit overexcited, he sometimes overdrives when he sees that.
Well, you know, he spent a couple of years in America driving in the IndyCar scene, and he had a big following, and yes, he does get a little bit overexcited, but we like that.
We like Rubens Barrichello as well, didn't we? We had it in Montreal last weekend, a little dice between him and Michael Schumacher. Michael came out on top. So far this weekend, Rubens has been the number one, and he was number one in qualifying again.
Well, Rubens is really on the pace this weekend. I mean, I think he's got Michael slightly worried, and that's been seen. But, you know, he's come off of Canada, yes, he's got that confidence, what takes him into here, and his driving style, again, just suits this particular circuit. And you somewhat feel that Rubens is somewhat more relaxed, and it shows as he's here. He put an outstanding middle sector together, and once he came across the line, he was nearly 2 tenths under Michael Schumacher. His team knew he did a good job. Rubens knows he's done a good job. You know, all he's got to do now is finish it off come Sunday afternoon. And you'd have to say at this moment in time, all the factors there to pull it off.
You know, when you see those two Ferraris on the front row together, the cynics say it's always going to be Michael's race. Will that change, do you think?
I think this could be more interesting because Rubens really has got the bit between his teeth, and I'm interested to see what the tyre situation is, because I think Michael may have gone a little bit harder on the tyre, Rubens maybe a bit softer, might make the edge.
And so the Ferraris, how do you see it tactically tomorrow? How do you see it in that chase down to the first corner?
Well, I think that's going to be the race. If whoever gets into the first corner, if it's Rubens first, then he'll be off and he'll be left alone. But if Michael gets in, Rubens is going to have to do the chasing. But it should not be any team orders, hopefully.
OK, and if you look at the BARs as well, and Jenson Button in particular, how do you see his race panning out?
I think Jenson's got a good car under him, the Honda power there. But again, he's with Takuma Sato there. I think he's going to have a little bit of trouble going into turn one. He's got to keep his eyes out, make sure Takuma's not a bit leery.
And we were watching it from the McLaren motorhome, weren't we? A bit more pain for David Coulthard again. That car, they can't get the new car in quick enough.
Yeah, I think DC really is at an all-time low now, because he knows that what he's got under him is not good enough to get the job done. They've got the new car coming in, it cannot come soon enough.
And that'll be here hopefully for the French Grand Prix, which is our next race. A word from you about the Renaults as well, who seem to have tumbled away a little bit. So strong early in the season, scoring at every race and struggling.
Well, Alonso's been putting in some sensible drives, and I think he had a little sensible lap today. But truly, technical problems, had a lot of issues with the gearbox, didn't complete his lap. He's going to be way back on the grid.
But you can see him racing through from there, can't you?
Yes, you can.
Good. OK, Mark, thank you very much indeed. Let me just point you towards a tremendous afternoon of motorsport coming up on ITV1. Speed Sunday at 2, including the British Touring Car Championship. A great lineup of star guests in that. Andretti, Button, Hill, Herbert and Watson. Our pre-race show starts at 5. The US Grand Prix, that is off at 6 your time. You can catch the highlights at midnight. Rubens Barrichello then out qualifying Michael Schumacher for the first time this season. Will he beat him over 73 laps? Will they race? We'll find out tonight.
If you'd like to know more about Formula One, the website address sponsored by the Daily Telegraph is itv.com/F1.